Wealth is not just something you chase outside. It is first a feeling you cultivate within. Your subconscious mind acts like a faithful bank that magnifies whatever emotion you deposit into it. When you truly feel wealthy, abundant, and prosperous right now, you set in motion the invisible forces that bring real wealth into your life. Keep this principle at the forefront of your mind at all times, because the feeling of wealth produces wealth. Wealth is fundamentally a state of consciousness, rather than a pile of currency or assets sitting in some external account. When Dr. Joseph Murphy declared that the feeling of wealth produces wealth, he was pointing directly to this inner reality that most people overlook in their daily pursuit of money. You do not become wealthy by chasing dollars through endless hours of grinding labor or by envying those who seem to have more. Instead, wealth begins as an internal condition, a mental and emotional atmosphere that you deliberately cultivate within yourself. This consciousness is built from what you consistently think, feel, believe, and give mental consent to over time. It is not something you wait to experience after the money arrives. It is the very seed that must be planted first in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind so that the outer results can naturally follow. Consider how the subconscious operates like a universal bank or a faithful servant that never questions the deposits you make. Every thought charged with emotion, every persistent feeling, every vivid mental image you hold gets magnified and multiplied by this deeper part of your mind. If you deposit thoughts of limitation, lack, or financial struggle, the subconscious will work tirelessly to produce more evidence of those very conditions in your life. But when you shift to the feeling of wealth, when you begin to live in the joyful expectation of abundance as though it is already yours, that same mechanism begins to attract opportunities, ideas, people, and circumstances that align with prosperity. The subconscious does not distinguish between what is real in the outer world and what is vividly imagined and felt within. It simply accepts your dominant mental state as the blueprint and sets about manifesting it in tangible form. This principle explains why some individuals seem to attract money effortlessly, while others, no matter how hard they work, always seem to fall short. The difference lies not in intelligence, education, or even luck, but in the inner conviction they carry. A person living in the consciousness of wealth walks through life with an unspoken assumption that supply is unlimited and that riches flow to them naturally. They do not worry about where the next opportunity will come from, because they have already impressed upon their subconscious the idea that wealth is their normal state. On the other hand, someone trapped in poverty consciousness constantly reinforces scarcity through their inner dialogue. They may say things like, "I can't afford that," "money is tight," or "rich people are lucky," and each of these statements acts as a deposit that the subconscious magnifies into real-world experiences of limitation. Murphy often emphasized that you must subjectively possess riches before you can objectively experience them. This means you have to feel wealthy in your imagination and emotions long before the bank balance reflects it. The feeling is the creative force. It is the bridge between the invisible realm of thought and the visible world of results. When you genuinely feel prosperous, when you carry the quiet confidence that money circulates freely in your life and that you are worthy of receiving it in ever-increasing amounts, you align yourself with the infinite supply that exists all around us. Nature itself demonstrates this abundance. Look at the trees heavy with fruit, the oceans teeming with life, the endless grains of sand on a beach. There is no shortage in the universe except the one we create in our own minds through negative conditioning. Many people grow up with beliefs that equate wealth with struggle or guilt. They hear messages that money is the root of all evil, or that wanting more is greedy. These false ideas become embedded in the subconscious and block the natural flow of prosperity. But Murphy taught that wealth is simply a subconscious conviction. It is good to desire financial freedom because it allows you to express more of your potential, help others, and enjoy the beauty of life without constant worry. When you release those old limiting beliefs and replace them with the clear feeling of wealth, you begin to dissolve the mental barriers that have been holding you back. You stop seeing money as something scarce that must be fought for and start recognizing it as a neutral form of energy that responds to your dominant state of mind. To build this consciousness, you start by monitoring your inner talk. Notice how often you dwell on what you lack instead of what is possible. Each time a thought of poverty arises, gently replace it with a mental picture of yourself living abundantly. Feel the satisfaction of having more than enough. Imagine the freedom, the joy, the peace that comes with financial ease. Do not force it or strain. Simply let the feeling grow naturally as you repeat positive impressions. Murphy suggested quiet repetition of ideas like, "Wealth flows to me in avalanches of abundance," or simply dwelling on the word wealth itself with deep feeling before sleep. As these impressions sink into the subconscious, they take root and begin to produce corresponding results in your daily experience. Think about the teacher Murphy mentioned who earned a modest salary yet desired an expensive ermine coat. Instead of reinforcing her inability to afford it, she learned to imagine wearing the coat, to feel its luxurious texture against her skin, and to experience the joy of owning it as if it were already hers. She stopped saying, "I could never afford that," and began living in the consciousness that supply was available to her. Over time, her changed inner state opened doors she never anticipated, demonstrating that the feeling of wealth does indeed produce wealth when consistently maintained. This is not about denying current circumstances, but about refusing to let them dictate your inner reality. Your outer world is a reflection of your dominant consciousness. So by changing the inner feeling, you gradually transform the outer conditions. The subconscious mind responds best to repetition combined with genuine emotion. It is not enough to merely say words mechanically. You must pour life, love, and conviction into the idea of wealth until it feels real and natural to you. Visualize yourself receiving unexpected income, enjoying luxurious yet harmonious experiences, and sharing your prosperity generously with others. Feel the gratitude and excitement that would accompany such a life. As you do this regularly, especially in the relaxed state before sleep or upon waking, the subconscious accepts these impressions as commands and begins to orchestrate events, meetings, and inspirations that move you toward greater financial freedom. Ideas for new ventures, solutions to old problems, or connections with helpful people start arising spontaneously because your mind is now tuned to the frequency of abundance. It is important to understand that this process does not require you to ignore practical action. You still make wise decisions, work diligently when inspired, and manage resources responsibly. But the driving force behind your success shifts from fear-based effort to inspired, effortless flow. When you operate from the feeling of wealth, work becomes more creative and enjoyable rather than a desperate struggle. Opportunities appear because you are radiating a magnetic consciousness that draws them in. People sense your quiet confidence and want to do business with you. Investments or projects that once seemed out of reach suddenly become accessible. It is the power of aligning your conscious desires with the creative forces of the subconscious. Many who have applied Murphy's teachings report that once they truly embodied the feeling of wealth, money began to come from unexpected sources. A business idea that had been dormant suddenly gained traction. A long-forgotten skill became valuable in a new market. Even small, consistent deposits of prosperous feeling compounded over time into significant changes. The key is consistency and belief. You cannot waver between wealth consciousness one day and doubt the next. Keep the dominant impression positive and expectant. Remind yourself that the universe is infinitely abundant and that you are a channel through which this abundance can express itself freely. Wealth consciousness also involves releasing any resentment or envy toward those who are already prosperous. When you see others succeeding, rejoice in their good fortune because it proves that abundance is available to all. By blessing their success, you affirm the same possibility for yourself and keep your own channel open. Negative emotions like jealousy only reinforce a sense of separation from wealth and push it further away. Instead, adopt the attitude that there is more than enough for everyone, including you. This generous mindset accelerates the manifestation process because it removes mental blocks and allows the natural laws of mind to operate smoothly. As you continue to impress the idea of wealth upon your subconscious, you will notice subtle shifts in your behavior and decisions. You begin to think bigger, take inspired risks, and notice possibilities that were always there but previously invisible to you. Your self-worth expands because you no longer tie your value to current bank balances or past failures. You start to see yourself as inherently deserving of prosperity, and this inner dignity reflects outward in how you carry yourself and interact with the world. Clients, customers, or employers respond more favorably because they sense your alignment with success. The beauty of this principle is its simplicity and universality. It does not depend on your background, education, or current financial situation. Anyone at any moment can begin to cultivate the feeling of wealth. Start small if necessary. Feel grateful for the money you already have, no matter how little it seems. Appreciate the abundance in nature, in your relationships, in the opportunities that exist around you. Let these positive feelings expand until they encompass financial prosperity as well. Gradually, the old patterns of lack dissolve, replaced by a steady, growing conviction that wealth is your natural birthright. Remember that every great fortune began as a thought, as a feeling held persistently in someone's mind. The inventors, entrepreneurs, and visionaries who built empires first felt the reality of their success within before it appeared in the world. They refused to let temporary setbacks or external conditions define their inner state. Instead, they held firmly to the consciousness of achievement and supply, and the subconscious delivered the ways and means to make it real. You have the same power available to you right now. The only requirement is to claim it through consistent feeling and belief. The subconscious never sleeps and never rests from its creative activity. It is always responding to the dominant seeds you plant. By choosing the feeling of wealth over and over again, you ensure that those seeds grow into a harvest of tangible riches. This is not magic or wishful thinking. It is the practical application of the laws of mind that have worked for countless individuals throughout history. Murphy's own life and the stories he shared from his counseling practice demonstrate repeatedly that when people change their inner feeling, their outer circumstances change accordingly, often in surprising and delightful ways. As this consciousness deepens, you will find that money becomes a tool for greater expression rather than a source of anxiety. You use it wisely, joyfully, and constructively, knowing that more is always on its way. Giving becomes natural because you understand the law of circulation. What you release with a prosperous spirit returns to you multiplied. Hoarding out of fear only stagnates the flow, while generous, confident giving keeps the channels open and active. This dynamic creates a self-reinforcing cycle where the feeling of wealth continues to produce even greater wealth in an ever-expanding spiral. People who live in this state often describe a sense of inner peace and freedom that transcends any specific amount of money. They know that their supply is not dependent on external conditions like the economy or job markets, but on their connection to the infinite intelligence within. Even during challenging times, they maintain the inner conviction that good is unfolding and that new avenues of prosperity are opening. This resilience comes directly from the established feeling of wealth that acts as an anchor no matter what temporary storms may arise. The process of building wealth consciousness is ongoing and deeply personal. It involves daily attention to your thoughts and feelings, gentle correction when old patterns surface, and joyful reinforcement of the new prosperous state. Over weeks and months, the changes compound just as interest compounds in a bank account, but with far greater returns because the subconscious multiplies your impressions exponentially. What begins as a quiet inner shift eventually becomes a transformed life filled with opportunities, resources, and the freedom to live according to your highest aspirations. Every time you choose to feel wealthy instead of worried, every time you affirm abundance instead of lack, you are making a powerful deposit into your inner bank. Trust that the subconscious is faithfully at work magnifying that deposit and bringing it into visible form at the right time and in the right way. There is no need for force or desperation. The law operates perfectly when you align with it through consistent feeling and expectancy. Wealth is your natural state once you claim it mentally and emotionally. The more deeply you embody the feeling of wealth, the more abundantly it manifests in every area of your experience, creating a life of richness, joy, and limitless possibility that continues to unfold. The feeling of wealth produces wealth. Keep this in mind at all times. This simple yet profound directive from Dr. Joseph Murphy serves as a constant reminder that shapes the entire trajectory of your financial experience. It is not a casual suggestion or a motivational slogan to be glanced at once and forgotten. Instead, it is a living principle that demands ongoing attention because your subconscious mind operates continuously, magnifying and multiplying whatever dominant feeling you impress upon it, day after day, moment after moment. When you truly keep the feeling of wealth at the forefront of your awareness, you align yourself with the creative forces of your deeper mind, allowing abundance to flow into your life in ways that often seem miraculous to those still trapped in patterns of lack. Your subconscious mind functions exactly like a universal bank or a faithful servant that never rests and never questions the deposits you make. It takes the emotional charge behind your thoughts and beliefs and expands them into tangible realities. If you deposit feelings of scarcity, worry about bills, or constant mental rehearsal of financial struggles, that same mechanism will work tirelessly to produce more evidence of limitation in your outer world. But when you deliberately keep the feeling of wealth alive, that quiet, joyful conviction that supply is always available, that money circulates freely and generously in your experience, the subconscious accepts this as your new normal and begins orchestrating events, ideas, opportunities, and connections that bring real wealth into manifestation. The key word here is keep. It is not enough to feel prosperous for a few minutes during a meditation session and then return to old habits of doubt or complaint. You must maintain this feeling persistently, especially in the face of contrary appearances, because consistency is what impresses the subconscious most deeply. Dr. Murphy frequently illustrated this through the story of a school teacher in California who earned a modest salary of $5,000 or $6,000 a year. She passed a store window and saw a beautiful ermine coat priced at $8,000. Her immediate reaction was one of lack. It would take me years to save that amount. I could never afford it. These words carried strong emotional charge and were promptly deposited into her subconscious, reinforcing her limited reality. After learning Murphy's teachings, she stopped marrying those negative concepts. Instead, she began to imagine herself wearing the luxurious coat. She felt the soft, beautiful fur against her skin, experienced the joy and confidence of owning such an elegant garment, and lived in the feeling that it was already hers without harming anyone. She kept this prosperous feeling alive regularly, particularly before sleep when the subconscious is most receptive. Over time, her inner state shifted, and unexpected channels opened. The coat, along with other symbols of abundance, came into her life in harmonious ways she had not foreseen. This demonstrates clearly how the feeling of wealth produces wealth when you keep it in mind at all times rather than allowing external conditions to dictate your inner atmosphere. Keeping this principle in mind means cultivating a habitual mental attitude where wealth feels natural and inevitable. A rich person does not constantly affirm their wealth because they are already living in that consciousness. Wealth is to them as ordinary and available as the air they breathe. They walk through life with the unspoken expectancy that more good is always flowing toward them. The poor person, by contrast, keeps thoughts of lack alive through constant worry, criticism of the rich, or rehearsal of past financial failures. Their subconscious magnifies those impressions, creating a self-fulfilling cycle of limitation. Murphy pointed out that the rich get richer precisely because they maintain the awareness and expectancy of God's infinite riches, which are omnipresent. Their dominant feeling attracts more wealth, health, and opportunities automatically. You can join this state by deciding right now to keep the feeling of wealth foremost in your awareness, refusing to give power to appearances of lack. One practical way to keep this feeling alive is through quiet, knowing repetition of prosperous ideas, especially before sleep. Murphy suggested dwelling on the single word wealth, slowly and quietly, for 4 or 5 minutes each night. Do not say it mechanically like a parrot. Instead, pour life, love, and genuine emotion into it, until the feeling of richness wells up within you. As you drift off to sleep with this impression, your subconscious accepts it as a command and works on it throughout the night, bringing corresponding experiences into your waking life. You can also use statements such as, money is forever circulating freely in my life, and there is always a divine surplus, or God supplies all my needs according to his riches in glory. Repeat these with conviction, knowing that your deeper mind is responsive. The conscious and subconscious must agree. When your feeling matches your desire, the law operates smoothly without inner conflict. Another powerful method is to think of increase along all lines and to feel successful and prosperous in every aspect of your daily activities. When you pay bills, do so with the feeling that you are circulating wealth joyfully and that more is returning to you multiplied. When you see beautiful things you desire, instead of saying, I can't afford that, mentally claim them by feeling the satisfaction of owning or experiencing them now. Keep the feeling of wealth alive by blessing the prosperity of others. When you see someone succeeding financially, rejoice sincerely because their good proves that abundance is available to all, including you. Criticizing or envying the rich only deposits feelings of separation and lack into your subconscious, pushing wealth further away. By wishing success, happiness, and abundance for everyone around you, you simultaneously attract more of God's riches to yourself through the law of circulation. Keeping the feeling of wealth in mind at all times also involves monitoring your inner dialogue throughout the day. Notice how often thoughts of limitation creep in. There's never enough. Prices are too high. I always struggle with money. Each of these is a deposit that the subconscious magnifies. Gently redirect your attention back to the prosperous feeling. Imagine money flowing to you from expected and unexpected sources. Feel the freedom, joy, and peace that come with financial ease. Visualize yourself living in a state of abundance where you can give generously, travel freely, and express your talents without restriction. The more vividly and emotionally you hold these impressions, the faster your subconscious moves to externalize them. Murphy emphasized that feeling is the law and the law is feeling. What you feel is true subjectively must eventually express itself objectively. This principle applies universally, regardless of your current bank balance or past history. Many people begin with very little, yet transform their financial reality by persistently keeping the feeling of wealth alive. A young woman who desired a luxurious trip to Spain started by imagining herself staying in a beautiful hotel there. She felt the experience so deeply, sleeping in the comfortable bed, enjoying the surroundings, that her subconscious magnified the impression. Not only did the journey manifest, but it also brought an engagement and a valuable diamond ring as additional blessings. Her consistent feeling opened doors in ways she could not have planned consciously. Similarly, individuals who have applied these teachings report receiving unexpected income, new business opportunities, or creative ideas that led to substantial wealth, all because they kept the prosperous feeling dominant instead of dwelling on temporary setbacks. The subconscious never sleeps and is always at work. Every thought charged with emotion is writing instructions upon it. When you keep the feeling of wealth in mind, you are giving clear, positive commands that lead to compound interest in the bank of life. Idle or mechanical repetition will not work. You must know what you are doing and why. Understand that your subconscious is a magnet that attracts whatever matches its conditioning. By keeping wealth feelings alive, you recondition it toward abundance. Avoid signing blank checks of negativity through careless speech or worry. Instead, speak and think only in terms of plenty, circulation, and increase. Wealth consciousness grows through daily practice and gentle persistence. Start where you are. Feel grateful for the money already flowing through your life, no matter how small it seems. Appreciate the abundance in nature, in opportunities, and in your own abilities. Let these positive feelings expand until they encompass larger financial freedom. As you keep the principle in mind, old patterns of lack begin to dissolve. You notice yourself thinking bigger, acting with greater confidence, and attracting helpful people and situations. Work becomes more inspired rather than desperate. Decisions flow from a place of expectancy rather than fear. Murphy taught that you possess everything by right of consciousness. The consciousness of wealth produces wealth, just as the consciousness of health produces health. All that is necessary to express prosperity is to feel prosperously now. Subjectively possess riches first in your imagination and emotion, and the objective experience must follow because the subconscious knows no other way. It moves heaven and earth to make your dominant feeling a reality. Keep reminding yourself that there is no real shortage except in the mind of man. The universe is infinitely abundant, and you are a channel for that abundance when you maintain the proper inner state. In moments of challenge, when bills arrive or income seems delayed, this is precisely when you must keep the feeling of wealth most strongly in mind. Do not deny the appearance, but refuse to let it control your inner reality. Affirm quietly that supply is always available and that new channels are opening. Feel the relief and gratitude as if the solution has already arrived. Your persistence in this feeling reprograms the subconscious and dissolves previous limitations. Many who once struggled financially now enjoy freedom and surplus because they learned to keep this one idea alive at all times. The feeling of wealth produces wealth. The power of this practice lies in its simplicity and reliability. It does not require advanced education, special connections, or years of hard labor without reward. It asks only that you discipline your attention and emotion to favor prosperity over lack. As you do so consistently, the results compound. Small shifts in feeling lead to noticeable improvements in circumstances, which in turn strengthen the feeling, creating an upward spiral of abundance. You begin to see money as a positive, harmonious force that serves good purposes when guided by wisdom and generosity. Giving becomes natural and joyful because you know the circulation continues to bring more back to you. Keeping the feeling of wealth in mind transforms not only your finances but your entire approach to life. You carry yourself with quiet confidence. Opportunities that once passed unnoticed now stand out clearly because your mind is tuned to the frequency of success. Relationships improve as others sense your positive energy and want to collaborate with you. Creative ideas flow more freely because fear no longer blocks the channel. This is the practical, demonstrable power that Dr. Murphy shared through countless examples from his counseling and lectures. People from all walks of life, teachers, business owners, students, homemakers, experienced remarkable turnarounds once they committed to keeping this principle alive. The subconscious responds best to repetition combined with deep feeling. Make it a habit to pause several times during the day and reconnect with the prosperous emotion. Feel wealth flowing to you now. Feel yourself worthy and open to ever-increasing supply. Let gratitude for current blessings amplify the feeling. Over time, this becomes your natural state of being. You no longer need to struggle to maintain it. It sustains you and continues to produce greater wealth and avalanches of abundance. The law is impersonal and exact. What you keep in mind with conviction, the subconscious magnifies and returns to you as your lived experience. Every great fortune, every story of financial freedom began with someone who kept a prosperous feeling dominant long enough for it to take root and grow. They refused to waver when conditions looked bleak. Instead, they held firmly to the inner conviction that wealth was theirs by right of consciousness. You have the same capacity right now. The only requirement is to keep the feeling of wealth in mind at all times, nourishing it with attention, emotion, and expectancy until it becomes the dominant force shaping your reality. As you do, the invisible forces within you align with the infinite supply around you, bringing forth riches in perfect timing and in perfect ways that bless you and all those whose lives you touch. Your subconscious mind magnifies and multiplies whatever you feel deeply. This fundamental law, as taught by Dr. Joseph Murphy, reveals the extraordinary creative power residing within you. The subconscious does not merely record your thoughts like a passive notebook. It acts as a dynamic, responsive force that takes every emotionally charged impression and amplifies it exponentially, much like a fertile field where a single seed grows into an abundant harvest. Whatever feeling you sustain with conviction, whether of joy, fear, abundance, or lack, becomes the blueprint that your deeper mind expands into tangible experiences, circumstances, relationships, and material results in your outer world. At its core, the subconscious operates as a universal banker, a faithful servant that never questions or argues with the deposits you make. It accepts your dominant emotional states as absolute commands and sets about multiplying them with compound interest, far beyond what your conscious efforts could achieve alone. If you repeatedly feel anxious about money, worried about bills, or convinced that opportunities are scarce, that emotional intensity gets magnified into larger patterns of struggle, delayed income, or missed chances. The subconscious does not judge whether the feeling is positive or negative. It simply responds by producing more of the same quality in your life. Conversely, when you learn to feel deeply the emotions of prosperity, success, and gratitude, those impressions are likewise magnified and multiplied, drawing forth ideas, people, resources, and synchronicities that align with wealth and fulfillment. Dr. Murphy often likened the subconscious to a vast treasure house of infinite intelligence and boundless potential. It knows no limitations except those you impose to your habitual feelings and beliefs. A single vivid feeling held with emotional depth can trigger a chain reaction where the subconscious orchestrates events in perfect harmony with that inner state. This is why some individuals seem to attract good fortune effortlessly, while others, despite hard work and intelligence, remain stuck in cycles of limitation. The difference lies not in external conditions, but in the quality and consistency of what they feel most deeply on the inside. The subconscious magnifies whatever dominates your emotional atmosphere, turning small mental seeds into full-grown realities. One of the clearest demonstrations of this law appears in the many personal accounts Murphy shared from his lectures and counseling sessions. A young woman who longed to travel to Spain began by quietly imagining herself staying in a beautiful hotel there. She did not focus on the practical obstacles like cost or logistics. Instead, she felt deeply the joy of being in that elegant setting, sleeping in the comfortable bed, and gazing at the scenic views from the window. She sustained this feeling for several nights before sleep, when the subconscious is particularly receptive. Her deeper mind accepted the emotional impression and magnified it beyond her original desire. Not only did the trip manifest in a harmonious way, but it also brought an unexpected engagement, a proposal of marriage, and a valuable diamond ring worth $2,000 as additional blessings. The subconscious had multiplied her initial feeling of luxurious travel into a rich tapestry of abundance, love, and new opportunities, illustrating how one deep feeling can expand into multiple rewarding outcomes. In another striking example, a school teacher with a modest salary passed a store window displaying an exquisite ermine coat, priced far beyond her means. Initially, her reaction was one of lack, but after learning to work with her subconscious, she shifted her approach. She began to feel the soft texture of the fur against her skin, to experience the confidence and elegance of wearing such a garment, and to live in the quiet joy of already possessing it. She kept this prosperous feeling alive regularly, especially in relaxed moments. Over time, her subconscious magnified that inner conviction, opening unexpected channels that allowed her to acquire not only the coat, but other symbols of financial ease as well. What started as a simple emotional impression of luxury grew into tangible prosperity because she allowed her deeper mind to multiply the feeling without interference from doubt or external appearances. A 14-year-old boy in one of Murphy's stories wrote down his desires to study languages at a university in Spain, to travel extensively, and to become a renowned guide and interpreter for tourists. He meditated on these goals with genuine feeling and expectancy, impressing them deeply upon his subconscious. Rather than worrying about money or qualifications, he sustained the emotional reality of living those experiences. His subconscious mind, acting as a creative powerhouse, magnified his impressions by influencing his aunt's thoughts and decisions in ways that fulfilled every detail of his vision. He received the education, the travel opportunities, and the successful career he had felt so vividly. This case shows how the subconscious can multiply a young person's deep feelings into life-changing realities by working through other people and circumstances in perfect order. Murphy emphasized repeatedly that the subconscious gives compound interest on whatever you deposit. Just as money in a savings account grows through interest over time, emotional impressions grow through the magnifying power of the deeper mind. A merchant who once lived in constant fear of financial failure began a simple practice of recording small successes and feeling genuine appreciation for them each day. He shifted from worry to a deeper feeling of progress and abundance. Within 30 days, his income tripled. New clients appeared effortlessly, and his personal confidence soared to the point where opportunities flowed to him naturally. The subconscious had taken his emerging feelings of success and multiplied them into expanded business growth and inner strength. This magnifying action explains why negative emotions can spiral so quickly if left unchecked. A person who feels deeply resentful or envious of others' success deposits that emotional charge into the subconscious, which then magnifies it into further experiences of separation, missed chances, or even health challenges. Sympathy with negative conditions, agreeing emotionally with stories of hardship or limitation, similarly aggravates and expands the problem because whatever receives focused feeling gets multiplied. Murphy warned against this tendency, urging people instead to withdraw emotional energy from undesirable states and redirect it toward positive, prosperous feelings. On the positive side, the law works with equal reliability for constructive emotions. When you feel deeply the thrill of accomplishment, the peace of financial security, or the excitement of generous giving, the subconscious accepts these as true and begins to multiply them in your daily affairs. It may bring inspired ideas for new ventures, favorable business connections, or creative solutions to old problems. A minister who once struggled with church finances adopted a simple, prayerful feeling. God reveals to me better ways to present the truths of God to my fellow creatures. He sustained this with deep conviction, and his subconscious magnified it into increased attendance, generous donations, and the complete payoff of the church mortgage within a few years. Money flowed in steadily thereafter because the deeper feeling of inspired service had been multiplied into tangible support. The process of engaging this law begins with quieting the conscious mind and allowing genuine emotion to arise. Force of mechanical repetition rarely works because the subconscious responds best to authentic feeling rather than empty words. Sit or lie down in a relaxed state, perhaps before sleep or upon waking, and vividly imagine the fulfillment of your desire. Feel the emotions that would accompany the successful outcome as though it is happening now. See yourself living in abundance, experiencing freedom from worry, enjoying the fruits of your ideas, and sharing prosperity with others. Pour life and conviction into these mental pictures until the feeling becomes real and natural to you. As you repeat this practice consistently, the impressions sink deeper and the subconscious starts its work of magnification. Your subconscious mind is always active, even during sleep. It never rests from its creative activity. Every thought charged with deep feeling writes instructions upon it, and it responds by bringing forth matching conditions. This is why Murphy advised people to avoid careless negative speech or prolonged worry, as these deposit impressions that get multiplied into larger difficulties. Instead, choose to feel good, expect good, and dwell on concepts of harmony, success, and plenty. The subconscious will then multiply those chosen feelings into a life that reflects them outwardly. Many who apply this understanding report that once they began feeling deeply the reality of wealth and abundance, small positive shifts appeared first, followed by larger transformations. A young man burdened by debt started each morning by affirming with feeling, "I am one with the infinite riches of my subconscious mind. These riches flow to me freely and abundantly." He pictured himself debt-free and secure, sustaining the emotional tone throughout the day as much as possible. Within weeks, unexpected income arrived, better job opportunities emerged, and a sense of inner peace replaced his former anxiety. The subconscious had magnified his deepening feelings of security into practical financial relief and renewed confidence. This principle applies universally, transcending background, education, or current circumstances. Whether you are a student, a business professional, an artist, or a homemaker, your subconscious stands ready to magnify whatever you feel most deeply. It draws from an infinite reservoir of intelligence and supply, orchestrating events in ways your conscious mind could never plan alone. The young boy who dreamed of becoming a physician and surgeon, despite lacking money and formal education, used scientific imagination to feel himself as a successful doctor. He engraved the diploma in his mind, felt the pride and service of the role, and sustained that deep feeling. His subconscious multiplied the impression, paving the way for the necessary education, opportunities, and eventual realization of his goal. Keeping the law in operation requires gentle persistence rather than strain. When contrary appearances arise, a delayed payment, an unexpected expense, or a temporary slowdown, do not feed them with deep negative feeling. Instead, return quietly to the prosperous emotion you wish to magnify. Affirm inwardly that supply is always available and feel the relief and gratitude as if the solution has already arrived. Your subconscious will respond by expanding that positive impression, often dissolving the apparent obstacle and bringing forth better results than you originally envisioned. The magnifying power of the subconscious also extends to talents, relationships, and personal growth. A person with a pleasant but undeveloped voice who felt deeply the joy of singing professionally before large audiences found his subconscious multiplying that feeling into opportunities for training, performances, and eventually a rewarding contract with substantial income. Hidden abilities surfaced and flourished because the emotional conviction was allowed to take root and grow. In the same way, feelings of love, harmony, and mutual respect in relationships get magnified into stronger bonds and greater fulfillment. Understanding this law empowers you to take full responsibility for your inner emotional climate. You are no longer at the mercy of external conditions. You become the director of what gets multiplied in your experience. By choosing to feel deeply the qualities you desire, wealth, health, peace, creativity, or success, you plant seeds that your subconscious nurtures and expands into a rich harvest. The process is impersonal and exact. It works for anyone who applies it with sincerity and consistency. As you practice feeling prosperous emotions more often, you will notice your overall vibration shifting. Opportunities that once seemed invisible now stand out clearly. People respond more favorably because they sense your quiet inner alignment with abundance. Creative ideas flow with greater ease, and decisions arise from inspiration rather than fear. The subconscious continues its behind-the-scenes work, compounding the positive impressions you deposit and returning them as expanded realities in your life. This magnificent ability of the subconscious to magnify and multiply deep feelings is available to you at every moment. It has been demonstrated through countless lives transformed by Murphy's teachings, from ordinary individuals overcoming financial hardship to those achieving remarkable success in their chosen fields. The key is to become deliberate about what you allow to dominate your emotional world. Choose feelings that uplift, expand, and align with your highest good, and trust that your subconscious mind will faithfully take those impressions and multiply them into a life of ever-increasing richness, joy, and abundance that continues to unfold in wonderful and unexpected ways.